All right, people. Only our second podcast of the week, because we did the Jesse Eisenberg Hall of Fame on Thursday, and we are back with the next episode of Talkin' Lost Season 2, Episode 2, Adrift, or as I like to call it, the Alternate Perspectives episode, because yes, that's right. This is officially the introduction of one of Lost's longest running and most notorious tropes, the idea of showing us the same events that we just saw, but from different characters' perspectives. We catch up with Michael and Jin and Sawyer, well, really just Michael and Sawyer, on what remains of the raft. We see Locke's journey into the hatch, and we get another kind of different perspective on a flashback that we thought we already saw. Someone could make the argument that that's really all what Season 2 is about, differing perspectives on things we thought we already knew. Luke, you got anything to say before we get into this episode?
No, it's just a continuation and a repeating of the previous episode. Not that that's a bad thing. You know, we saw more of the hatch with Locke, but it ended the same way the last one ended. So
yes, it did.
You have to wait for next week.
Literally exactly the same way. All of that and more on today's episode of Talkin' Lost. All right, Season 2, Episode 2. This episode is referred to collectively as Adrift, as we spend a lot less of the episode time with Michael and Sawyer on the raft than I thought we did. I thought they would be a bulk of the episode, but then I realized, they're literally just sitting on what remains of the raft for the entirety of the episode, and there's really only so much you can do with that there. Like I was saying in the intro stretch, this is the beginning of a long-running trend that Lost would do, which was in an effort to kind of stretch out and preserve their storylines across the course of 25 episodes. They kind of reverse courses, because now that we're kind of past the character intro points, where the cool thing about Season 1 was that the majority of the season was really just kind of these individual, for lack of a better word, superhero backstories, these character origin stories. And there really actually wasn't much plot happening on the island. There was the overhanging mystery, there was the smoke monster, there was the digging up of the hatch upon its discovery, there was the building of the raft, but for the most part, there really wasn't too much stuff going on. Now that we're kind of really getting into the island and what it kind of comprises, we're officially inside the hatch. We're seeing the beginning, even though there's no reference to it. We're starting to see the beginning of kind of the Dharma initiative. We get a little bit more. We actually see what it is that Desmond is doing down there. We kind of discover the source of the beeping. We discover kind of the use of the number. So there is a lot that we discover in this episode. But as is the case with a lot of things Lost, we don't actually get really any answers. And again, it's kind of just a different perspective on events that we already kind of saw in the last episode, where we see Locke go into the hatch and we see what happens between everything when he goes into the hatch and then when Jack finds him being held at gunpoint at Desmond at the end of the last episode. And we also see what happens to Kate as well once we get into it. What did you think of this episode overall?
It didn't hit me like the previous one did, because the previous one's like, boom, second season, we have to get the audience involved already. And the second one, okay, the audience is here. We can slow it down now. See what the Team Raft is doing with a suspicious amount of lighting in the middle of the dark ocean.
Very, very convenient how much lighting they have. It should be pitch black.
But then I remember the one of the greatest quotes about when they were shooting Helm's Deep in the Two Towers. Like, where does the light come from? Same place as the music. So I just, that's just
true.
That's just film.
That's a pretty good quote. That's a pretty fucking good quote. If I
remember it was a crew worker or something, but yeah, that's the wonder of filmmaking. You can light a scene in the middle of the night and no one would really care. So yeah, we do see what happened with Kate. We see what happened with Locke. How he did end up at gunpoint with Desmond, and the flashback. It's not going to be a flashback that I remember, because I feel like we've already been through this
right
2 or 3 times.
Exactly. And it feels like, with the exception of new characters that we're going to meet this season, for the most part, the flashbacks with the main characters are kind of retreading old ground, kind of filling in the gaps of some of the details that we were missing from Season 1. Like I said, last week it was discovering how Jack was able to save his wife and allow her to walk again. This week it's Michael, kind of just, he's in lawyer court proceedings. And I understand the symbolic meaning of it. It's trying to show how Michael's continued inadequacy as a father, especially really when he's in the courtroom with his, I love how they keep calling her his ex-wife, and he's like, yeah, we were never actually married to begin with, which is what kind of makes this so murky and complicated. And she basically talks him into giving up Walt, basically by saying that, like, yeah, you're literally incapable of raising him. It's like you're still on disability, you can't work, you know, you need to focus on your art, you could barely afford your rent, they're going to evict you from your apartment. Like, how is Walt supposed to have a life with you? And it's really sad, kind of the reality check that she gives him. But it kind of, like I said, we already kind of know these characters, so it's just kind of like adding more context and filling in some of the gaps. And as far as everything that's happening on the island, like I said, there's really not too much that happens plot-wise. Like I said, it's mostly just filling in the gaps. I mean, there's some interesting conversations between Michael and Sawyer, you know, once again, arguing back and forth. Michael wants to blame Sawyer for everything because Sawyer's the one that fired the flare. Sawyer's like, guess what? They weren't on a boat that was made. Sawyer points out two very obvious details. It's like, look, the others, they said they were looking for a kid. So that clearly meant it was your kid that they were after, which means that he's probably alive and with them. And two, he's like, they were on a dinghy that was not meant for big, wide open water, which means they only could have come from one place, the island. So it's kind of just like Sawyer pointing out some obvious facts to Michael that Michael's clearly not seeing because he's distraught and in anguish. Jin is not anywhere to be seen for like the whole episode. They just hear him yelling off in the distance. And then it's like, okay, I guess we're just like stuck here, sitting, you know, the forced to kind of survive on our own. Sawyer literally digs the bullet out of his shoulder, and
he's fine. It hurts a bit.
Of course, I'm like, oh, okay, now we're getting into the loss. This is kind of where some of the problems are starting to show themselves. And yeah, I mean, it ends basically where they wind up back in the island. There's some incident with a shark where Sawyer is basically trying to get to like a bigger piece of the raft. There's a shark that surrounds him because it smells his blood, and then Michael shoots the shark. They make it back to the island at the end, and then they see Jin running out onto the beach, tied up, and Jin's immediately trying to yell at them. You know, the only word so far that he's learned in English being others. And they see a group of people coming up in the shadows, armed to the teeth with weapons. Are they the others? Are they somebody else? Guess we'll have to find out in the next episode.
I'm guessing one of them was Michelle Rodriguez because her name was in the opening credits, and yet she was not in the episode.
Yep,
so
you're paying attention.
One of those silhouettes is her with the big like tribal masks and axes and whatnot.
Michelle Rodriguez, and one of my absolute favorite actors with the most impronounceable name in Hollywood, Adewale Akinye Agbaye, famous for a variety of different roles. Born Identity, Oz, what's it called? Bunch of different things. As I'm looking up his filmography right now because I can't remember it off the top of my head because I haven't seen him in a while because rumor has it is that he is notoriously to work with. Yes, Curse and Thor the Dark World, Killer Croc and Suicide Squad, Heavy Duty and G.I. Joe, The Rise of Cobra. And he portrays the character of Mr. Echo, so we'll be seeing him in a couple of episodes as well.
Is he up here somewhere?
He is one of the silhouettes that we see at the end.
No, is he up here?
Yes, he is. He's the one all the way to the left.
Okay, gotcha.
That's him. Yep. Very, very small but very memorable part in this sect of Lost.
So they've taken a very different approach to survival compared to
compared to the mainland
to the ones that we've known. They're going full Lord of the Flies.
Yes, or so they appear to be. That
appears.
Yes, indeed. In the hatch, meanwhile, like I said, not too much happening here, but some very crucial things that are revealed. Locke meeting Desmond and having that interaction. The first thing Desmond says when they first see him. First things first, Locke discovers the computer setup with the beeping. He doesn't really know what's going on. He doesn't really know what it's for. Then, second big thing, Desmond comes out. Well, he finds Kate lying on the ground, looking like she's been hit with something. Desmond comes over with the gun, holds him at gunpoint. The first thing he asks Locke, "Are you him?" And Locke immediately is like, "Well, of course I am." and then Desmond immediately figures it out. It's like, "Yeah, you're not him."
He has something about what did the snowman say to the other snowman?
Yes, more code phrases and whatnot in order to try and determine. If I had to guess, Desmond thinks that Locke is the guy that's been sent to replace him in terms of looking over, you know, this piece, this stationary equipment, you know. And of course, Locke fails the test. He successfully convinces Desmond to imprison Kate in wherever it is that he has her imprisoned, which is later revealed to be a storage unit full of food and survival supplies. Man, It would have been. It's kind of funny seeing this now. It's like, man, they spent like an entire first 25 episodes trying to survive, and now it's like it turns out you had all this food here this whole time. So it looks like Jack wasn't wrong in terms of wanting to come down into the hatch. And basically, Locke pulls a little switcheroo by saying, "Yeah, Kate's a fugitive. She's like the really dangerous one," but just use that as an opportunity to slip his pocket knife into Kate's pockets. Well, he has Desmond interrogate him, once again playing up that he's not actually threatening, but also manages to get some answers for the hatch when he's like, this artificial light is like, does that mean that you could never leave? And when he explains to Desmond, he's like, yeah, we crash landed on a plane. What is it? Something 44 days ago. And Desmond's eyes immediately light up. He's like, 44 days ago, huh? And he doesn't say what it is, but that's kind of our first indication that them crashing on the island was not random. Something happened in those last 44 days, something that may have had to do with Desmond. That's the reason why they landed. So, like I said, there's a lot of cryptic conversation happening here that's hinting at things that are to come, but it is all like definitely worth exploring. So that is what were your thoughts on like the whole interactions there that were happening?
Yeah, it's typical Lost cryptic shtick. Just like, hey, we're gonna allude to something, but not really. So you have to speculate on your own until next week, or probably until the end of the season. As I've learned with this show, that they do leave things until the finale, but the finales are pretty spectacular so far.
Yes, so far.
And you have said that that the Lost delivers on their finale. So
the finales are always important. The funny thing and it's really funny. I was doing the math when I was like going over everything that happens in all the Lost finales, and I was like, wait a minute. There's literally an explosion in every single Lost finale except for the final episode, except for the series finale. I literally realized. So that explosion that happened both at the Black Rock with Arts and then blowing open the hatch, that ain't the last explosion. That's all that I'm going to say.
Well, that's another Stephen King trope that like most of his endings, something just blows up.
Yep.
Like,
yep. So Stranger Things wasn't the first show that ripped off Stephen King.
No. But Stranger Things ripped it off the best.
Yes.
Yes. But anyway, in the hatch, so Locke points out he hasn't seen a computer like this in 20 years. That's some extra information that this has been around for a while. Some Cold War era stuff. Like, is it something related to that? When he types in the numbers, I think resets some kind of countdown. I think it was.
Yep.
Also a very old timey thing with the flipping pages. So that's something to think about.
Yes.
And yeah, so.
Yeah,
that's where I'm at so far.
Our first instance of like, okay, so we saw the introduction of the numbers last season. We saw how much bad luck they caused Hurley out in the real world. Now we saw them etched on the outside of the hatch. Now we're kind of seeing their function. So whatever those 6 numbers are, 4, 8, 15, 16, 23, 42, whatever those 6 numbers are, they clearly do serve some sort of a purpose in that I believe it's 108 minutes is what it resets to. Whoever it is that is stationed in the hatch has to type those numbers in and hit execute, or else something happens. I know what happens, but you don't. So I have to keep it vague and ambiguous, kind of like Lost does for the majority of its season. Something happens.
Shoots out an EMP. Hollywood loves EMPs, and they love explaining what EMPs do. Like, you thank GoldenEye for that. I feel like after
GoldenEye.
Everyone started doing that.
Yes, the as we saw also last episode when Jack descended into the hatch and he saw kind of his key being drawn to the wall there. Hint, hint, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. But of course it ends with Kate of course escaped into the vents. It's actually pretty funny how when Desmond tries to fire the gun in order to get Jack's attention, he almost shoots Kate's face off. I thought that was actually kind of really funny. And what's it called? And then of course Jack, we end with the moment with what's it called? With Jack recognizing Desmond from kind of his run from the last episode, wherever that is. So that'll be interesting once they once Jack realizes, once Jack fills in the rest of the survivors that he knows Desmond from off the island. Like I said, yet another off the island connection that happens with all of these survivors, whereas Desmond may not have landed on the plane. Desmond has been on this island for a long time, but that doesn't mean that the people who are on the island necessarily started there. Now, unlike the others, but we'll get to that more in turn. Like I said, episode ends, cuts off. Jin, Michael, and Sawyer are kidnapped by people who we assume are the others, but may not actually. Jack, Locke, and Kate are one step closer to finding out what's actually going on in the hatch, even though we, the audience, are still clueless. It's kind of funny because Lost kind of functions the opposite the way that most shows do. Most shows do, the audience is usually like one step ahead of the characters in the show, and that's kind of like what creates a lot of the reason to keep watching. Lost, it's a total opposite because it feels like the audience, we're always 3 steps behind the characters in the show, but the characters in the show are always 10 steps behind what's actually happening. So that makes us like 13 steps behind what's happening. So it motivates us to want to continue watching. But there's always kind of that risk of it's like, we're just going to eventually kind of get fed up and tune out. And I feel like that's kind of what happened with a lot of people when they were watching it real time. Thankfully, we don't have to deal with that because we're watching it 1 episode a week continuously for the rest of the entire year. But again, I kind of understand where some of the frustrations do come from. So, yeah, like I said, it's really all that happens. There's not a whole lot. I'm not going to say that this is filler. Like I said, it's a warped perspective. But yeah. The Oscars are this weekend, so
it's today. It's
today, actually. Yes, the Oscars are tonight.
It's in a mere 8 hours.
Hey, yes, it is. I'm going to 2 different Oscars parties tonight. I am already expecting that my predictions are going to be. This is going to be my worst year yet. I have a Nora winning picture. I have The Brutalist winning director, even though that's probably going to go to Sean Baker. I have Brody winning actor. I have Kieran Culkin and Zoe Saldana winning supporting. I have Nora for original screenplay, and I have Conclave for adapted screenplay. I do have your movie. I have Flow winning animated
feature. Only category that matters.
Exactly.
The biggest night in the history of
Latvia. Yes. Like I said, this could be a big night for some international cinema. Flow could win animated feature. I'm Still Here could win the 2 categories that it's up for, Best Actress and Best Foreign Film. It will probably win Best Foreign Film. I don't know. What are your thoughts on this year's Oscars? This is going to be a weird ceremony, to say the least.
I feel like the first time in like a few years, there's not a clear winner. Because last year at Oppenheimer, you kind of had like everyone was expecting Everything Everywhere to win. There was the Nomadland year. The Coda year, I don't remember.
Well, the Coda year
kind of a blur.
The Coda year's funny because it was a thing of where nobody kind of knew what was going to win up until it was in a similar way, kind of the precursor for Everything Everywhere All at Once, where both of those years, 2021 and 2022, nobody really knew what was going to win. There wasn't really any clear frontrunner until those 2 movies just started winning everything. And then after a certain point, it's like, okay, it's going to be those 2, So while the weird thing about Coda is that was the weird year. That was the HBO Max day and date drop. And so a majority of the movies that were nominated for Best Picture, most people didn't really have a chance to see, So it wasn't really until 2022 that people were like actually able to start watching the movies again. And then with Oppenheimer year, it's like, yeah, as soon as Oppenheimer came out, they're like, yeah, this is winning Best Picture. Like nothing is topping this, that was a steamroll effort that started in July and ended until it won the Oscars. But like I've said before, good movie years with a clear definitive frontrunner, boring awards race. Bad movie years with not a clear frontrunner, incredible awards race. And that's the one thing I can say about the Oscars leading up to tonight is the fact that we have gone through the PGAs, the SAG Awards, the Critics' Choice, the WGAs, the DGAs, the Indie Spirit Awards, the BAFTAs, and I still have no clue what's going to win Best Picture. Like, I have a thought process based on what's won the most, but I still have no clue. The fact that it is this ambiguous of an award ceremony, I legitimately don't remember the last time that this was the case, because even in 2019, everybody was expecting...
that was my first Oscars watching year. What was that like?
Well, so it's funny because so real quick, are you talking about the Green Book ceremony that happened in 2019?
Yeah, Green Book.
Okay, so Green Book is a little bit funny because Green Book was a little bit of a surprise, but that one, it was also a thing of where it's like, oh, this is going to be the old-timey Academy members coming back with a vengeance after The Shape of Water win the year before. They don't want to feel pressured into voting for, quote-unquote, the new diverse choice. They don't want to be outwardly called racist. So what was their choice? To double down and go with, like, the most safe kind of across-the-board movie of those 8 nominees, which if you look at it, Green Book of those 8 nominees was probably the most quote unquote safe choice. But what's more interesting to me is how the following year was you almost had exactly the opposite, where in February of 2020, when things were still normal, everyone was kind of expecting 1917 or Once Upon a Time in Hollywood to win, and then it ends up going to Parasite kind of out of nowhere, which up until that point, the interesting thing about Parasite is that it only had one precursor win. It had only won the SAG Award for Ensemble, where it hadn't won anything else. It was getting nominated for a bunch of stuff, but it hadn't really won anything else. And so that winning Best Picture kind of really turned the tide and made it so that, like, oh no, foreign films are going to have much more of a, of a spot at this award ceremony going forward than it may have in the past, due to the Academy greatly expanding its members, being a lot more large, being a lot more diverse, a lot more international. And that's kind of why you've seen, a lot more foreign efforts like Drive My Car, like Triangle of Sadness, like Zone of Interest and Past Lives last year. And this year you have Emilia Perez, unfortunately, and I'm Still Here getting nominated. So that's kind of a thing that you're going to see going forward more. And obviously we saw it last year when Godzilla -1 and Boy and the Heron won in their respective categories over other movies that in previous years would have steamrolled over them. Boy and the Heron being the first Miyazaki movie since Spirited Away to win the Best Animated Feature, and Godzilla -1, which, again, compared to the creator, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, Mission Impossible, Dead Reckoning Part 1, and Napoleon, you could say the effects weren't as kind of big and grandiose, but just given what they were able to pull off on such a small budget and scale, you really got to give props to that movie being the little engine that could and having the impact that it did last year. So that's kind of really the source of interest for the Oscars going forward. Will they ever nominate or award the right movie? Probably not, but we could hope that they do, especially since that, a few exceptions aside, their Best Picture slate is pretty good so far this year. 4 entries from that Best Picture race made my top 10 of the year. So it'll be an interesting award ceremony to watch, to say the least. Jimmy Kimmel's finally not hosting. Thank God. He might be the worst host so far of my lifetime. I hate when people hate on Neil Patrick Harris from 10 years ago. He was a great host. And yeah, Conan O'Brien is hosting. Let's hope that they actually, give him some good material.
I can't believe the Oscars made that good of a decision.
Right? It's almost like you wouldn't expect that. I'm hoping for some conversation about art and not just all about how, oh no, Trump is president again. Everything is awful. Everything is going to be doom and gloom. He's going to start eating trans people, and RFK is going to start locking autistic people up in camps. Oh no. Less that and more about the movies. And I'm like, okay, we might be in for a good show, it would be cool if they brought on Ricky to host, but they will never do that. Hollywood is way too scared of Ricky to ever let him host after he absolutely eviscerated them the first time at the Golden Globes. And ironically, only 2 months after he eviscerated all of Hollywood, COVID happened. So I'm like, oh, wow. So Ricky started the process that COVID then finished. So I thought that was pretty good. But who's your pick for Best Picture tonight?
I don't really have like a horse in the race that I'm really rooting for. I've heard like Anora is the betting favorite, right? So
yes,
I haven't had the chance to see The Brutalist because it hasn't released here, and it's also 3.5 hours long. So
it's very long. You need a whole day to see that shit.
Yeah. Of course, you and I both think Dune should be at the top of that list.
Yeah, come on, undisputedly.
Just wait for Dune Messiah, then you can. Then you can give Chalamet his
Oscar. If Dune Messiah wins Best Picture, that's going to be the funniest thing that has ever happened in our lifetimes, possibly, given what that book is.
And people are now saying Chalamet's better in Dune than he is in A Complete Unknown.
He is. I'm sorry, he is. Yeah. I mean, I've been saying that. So
but then he won SAG, so that makes the race
right. But honestly, but here's why that doesn't mean anything, at least for this race. Why Brody's winning, because the exact same thing happened, ironically, 20 years ago when Brody won the first time for The Pianist, where he won everything leading up to the Oscars except for SAG, which he lost to Daniel Day-Lewis for Gangs of New York. But then he still won the Oscar. So that's why Timmy winning SAG means absolutely nothing, because Brody's won everything else.
Timmy will win something. He
will win something.
He's the lead of 3 Best Pictures every year.
He will win something, but again, as I said, he kind of is our new DiCaprio. So it's going to be a while. There's going to be kind of another kind of series of movies that people are going to be arguing. Oh, we should have won for this. Oh, we should have won for this. And then by the time he wins, it'll be like, we've already moved on to the next new guy who should have won. So, yeah. But I did like his SAG speech, where it was kind of like that perfect mix of, oh, I'm acknowledging kind of all the people who have come before me, while also kind of, doing what in Hollywood is referred to as an acceptable ego boost, where he's like, yeah, I'm one of the greats, but I want to be one of the greats so I can help contribute to the legacy of the greats who came before me. And I'm like, all right, I see what you're doing there. I'm impressed with you. Good stuff.
That's what you need when you're going to play Paul Atreides in Messiah. You need that.
Yes. Well, we've got
sort of broodiness, if you will.
Yes, we've got Marty Supreme at the end of this year. The Oscars, Rob Sandler 5 years ago. So we'll see if they do the same with Chalamet for whatever the hell Marty Supreme is going to be. If it's anything like Uncut Gems was. And then my prediction is he's going to be in a sports movie. Well, actually, no, Marty Supreme is technically already a sports movie. So that checks that mark off. And I think he needs to do something crime related. something grimy. I was actually pitching this to a guy the other day. I'm like, he needs to do something kind of like Basketball Diaries, where he's the sympathetic kind of figure, or the more hard-edged figure in kind of, in kind of the crime thing. He already did the drug addict route with Beautiful Boy, but that was more tragic. He needs to do something more like hard edge, something that really like shows his grit. He's got like the kind of messianic, youthful figure that Dune was, and Messiah's kind of gonna wrap his journey, his arc. But it's going to be good, to say the least. I know Paul technically comes back with Children of Doom, but Villeneuve already said he's not touching Children of Doom or God Emperor.
And he doesn't really do anything in that.
Yeah,
so
exactly. He's there for 5 seconds, then he dies. So,
Spoilers for
everyone. Spoiler alert for anybody who hasn't read it. This is interesting. Like, who would? What's so funny too? It's like if David Lynch were still alive, he's the guy who I would have pegged to direct God Emperor and Children of Dune. But now, I don't know who's like the modern day David Lynch that like just does like surrealist, trippy, weird
like
shit.
An Ari Aster type.
Oh, I don't want to see Ari Aster do that.
No, I don't either.
I really don't. It would be interesting, especially after Beau is Afraid, but I really, really don't want to see
Maybe you
Ari
got like a body horror to do God Emperor.
Yeah, maybe.
But
I don't know.
Warner Brothers, that's too franchisey to go body horror.
It would be funny if
they even get that far.
It would be really funny if they got the director of The Substance to direct God Emperor. That would actually be hilarious. Because by that point, the Atreides are just like full on. The Atreides are the new Harkonnens by that point in the series. So, Frank Herbert.
It's going to be a fun night.
It's going to be fun.
Oscars always produce.
Oscars are always
a ton of good memes. So.
Honestly, yeah, it's a good time. Like I said, the one year that I didn't watch that I'm like, I'm done, was the Will Smith slap year. And I'm like, great, now I'm going to be watching these ceremonies for the rest of my life. It's funny because I still remember back in college when everyone was complaining, being like, oh, the Oscars suck. Nobody watches them. And now it feels like everybody is watching them. So it looks like they got their way, even though like the views are still terrible. So, but that's only because Middle America stopped caring about, foreign art films and only care about blockbusters, which is understandable because why should they have any reason to care about art films? Oh man, Luke, as always, a pleasure. We will be back next week to talk about Lost Season 2, Episode 3, Orientation. Like I said, we're going to keep going every week until the end of the year. Where can people follow you on the interwebs?
You can follow me at Luke Reviews on YouTube. Mickey 17 comes out.
Yes, sir.
So
and Daredevil. And Daredevil. Man,
keep forgetting.
It's going to be a good back-to-back.
Did you see the Doomsday concept art?
Yes, I did. Well, I'm going to save that. I want to talk about that next week when we talk about Daredevil because there's some stuff to talk about for sure, but it's going to require a lot of breaking down. I will admit, some interesting stuff for sure, though. I guess kind of the surprise for me is I'm like, oh, so Doomsday, we're already going to be a battle world. So does that mean that when Fantastic Four ends and they get back to Earth 616, it's already going to be battle world? Like, what's going to be happening? And like, we know that Doctor Doom is I'm going to save this for next week. I don't want to waste too much time on this.
I just know that I'm going to order the comic, so I'm just going to get it.
It's a good read.
It's a 2015 one.
Yeah,
right?
The 2015 one. Yes, it's a good read. I've read it several times. It's very, very good. So, yeah. Also, I read Secret Invasion recently, and I'm like, wow. Avengers: Earth's Mightiest Heroes, the animated show, did this arc better than the fucking Marvel live-action TV series. That's embarrassing.
Maybe they'll do it again in the post Secret Wars.
God, when they're just focusing on X-Men because they're like, yeah, we've already killed off all the main characters. There's literally nobody left.
But the X-Men have enough villains.
The X-Men have plenty of people. They can literally just do X-Men for the next 20 years and they'd be fine.
Yeah.
All right, you already plugged yourself, right?
Yeah,
just making
Mickey
sure
17. I'll try to get a review out, short one.
Yes, but we'll be talking about it on this channel along with Daredevil next week, right after our Lost episode. All right, people, it's that time of the night. Our Super Bowl, the Oscars, the 97th Academy Awards have officially come to an end. Dustin and I, we're here to break it down. It's our official favorite night of the year. It's our Super Bowl. Dustin, I gotta say, this is my favorite Oscar so far of the decade. It's not exactly a high bar to overcome, but this is my favorite Oscars of the decade so far, to say the least.
Yeah.
To say the least. So we're going to get into all of that, breaking down everything, breaking down our nominations, which one of our predictions panned out, and the Anora sweep. Sean Baker, officially a multi-Oscar winner. And not only that, Mikey Madison, also an Oscar winner. We've got a lot to discuss here. All of that more on the Talkin TV Academy Awards breakdown. Stay tuned. All right, Dustin, it has been quite a night. I just got back from 2 separate parties. Like, I don't know about you, man, but it really felt like people were ready to celebrate the Oscars this year. It really, really did. That might just be based in like my own like kind of media corner of the world, but I really feel like going into this year, the Oscars, in a weird way, I kind of feel like pop culture wise, not views wise, but pop culture wise and meaning wise, I feel like we're bigger than the Super Bowl this year, which never happened, has never happened in my lifetime, at least.
They not like us.
Exactly. The fact that that's the biggest takeaway, to the point where, again, Conan even cracks a joke in the middle of the show.
Yeah, right.
You know, like,
about Drake,
dude. Also, like, I kind of hyperbolize this a little bit. And this is where we are coming off of a string of 4 very mediocre shows. The last two of which were hosted by Jimmy Kimmel, who might be the worst host in the entire history of the Oscars. And yeah, I mean,
Regina Hall and Wanda Sykes.
Yeah, Kimmel's worse than all of them. I'm sorry, but yeah. I just said that, but I mean, I feel like from the minute that Conan comes out, with the opening sketch of him coming out of Demi Moore's body from the substance, I'm like, okay,
that was a little crazy. That was a little weird.
It was, but like, it kind of set the tone for the kind of show that we were in for, you know, and.
Kind of, but like I thought his actual monologue worked better than like the substance stuff.
You know what it is for me, as far as why I enjoyed myself the most with this, is because of all the ceremonies of the last couple of years. This is the one that actually felt, I know that they say this every year, but this is the one that it actually felt like they were like, okay, we're gonna make this about the movies and reemerging. We're fully out of COVID now. We're ready to get back to things the way they were. And I feel like that was kind of the undercurrent of everything throughout it. There wasn't really a whole lot of I mean, obviously there's always going to be messaging, but I didn't feel like there was kind of this theme that they had to get across the way there has been in previous ceremonies.
Sure.
So yeah, that's kind of my biggest takeaway, other than the nominees themselves, which, all right, so just right off the bat, I missed 5. I got 19 right out of all 23. This is my second best year since 2022. 2022 still holds the record. I only missed 3 that year. I missed documentary, short, original screenplay, and one other that I'm currently forgetting. This year, I missed cinematography. I missed documentary short. I missed editing. I missed Best Actress, and I missed what was the other one? Oh shit, that might have been it. Oh no, that's it. I only missed 4 this year. I
got 18 out of 23, so I got one less than you. I got actress wrong. I got original screenplay wrong. I got animated short wrong. And then I'm trying to remember the other ones I got wrong, but I got 6 wrong. 5 or 6 wrong. Yeah, I got like 18 out of 20.
Yeah. Majority of those, I'll say, for me, majority of them were ones where, so documentary short, I always guess those categories. I was actually impressed that I got live action short and animated short correct. Editing, that was kind of a 50-50 split, where even though I had a feeling it might be a Nora, I was too split, and so I went
Conclave. I got editing wrong.
I thought it was going to be Conclave, but we were literally talking throughout it. At the minute that Nora won editing and original screenplay, we were like, yeah, it's a lock for picture. So that wasn't the surprise. Baker winning and having the back-to-back speeches of original screenplay and director, that wasn't a surprise for me. I don't know about you. I cheered, fist pumped hard when Tarantino came out and presented the director award.
Right?
Baker. That was awesome. That was really cool.
It was cool, but it would have been cooler if he had already won a director nom.
Yes, yes, it would have.
You know what I mean?
Yes, it would
if
have.
He won for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. That would have been cooler.
Yes,
but whatever.
Yes. Let's not.
But instead, that he's giving Sean Baker a director award before he even has one.
Right.
It's really bleak. The more I think about it, but it was cool in the moment.
Yeah, in the moment, it was cool. My thing that I'm mad at is me predicting Dune 2 over Brutalist for cinematography and then losing spectacularly.
Yeah, I didn't get that wrong.
No, because in hindsight, I'm like, wow, that's really like a stupid on my case. Because I'm sorry, Amelia Perez and Maria were both never winning. Still, the fact that Amelia Perez had as many nominations as did is still insane.
Maria had more of a shot though because of the cinematography guild gave it their award.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that won the the Cinematography Guild.
Okay, I did not know that, but Frasier already won for Dune Part 1, and then Yarn Blash is funny because the guy, one of the guys who I was talking to tonight, actually had to remind him Yarn Blash had already won previously for The Lighthouse, so that's why I knew he wasn't winning for Nosferatu. So that left LOL Crawley for The Brutalist. Very, very well.
LOL.
That's what I did. That's what it is. What am I supposed to say? LOL?
Yes.
I'm not saying LOL. That's
what John Mulaney said in the Independent Spirit Award.
Great, awesome. I'm not saying LOL. I refuse to call someone that. Your name is literally LOL. Own it. Come on. You know? That's like 106 Point Never wanted to go by Daniel O'Potton. It's like, dude, your name is 106 Point Never. Stick with it. I don't understand why these guys want to go by their real names instead of their badass made-up names. Oh, yeah, that might just be a me thing. Right? Like, come on. Yeah, honestly, like I said, the rest of it, acting, there was absolutely zero surprises except for Mikey Madison winning. Brody, Culkin, Saldana, they kind of just got those out of the way at the beginning. Nobody was even a little bit surprised by those.
Right before the show, I changed my prediction to Fernando Torres just because I wanted to make sure, like, if I got it wrong and Mikey Madison won, I wouldn't feel that bad because I ended up having a good night anyway. So it's like it's not that big of a deal. Like Mikey Madison winning, that is cool.
Yeah. That's really cool. It's cool for a lot of different reasons. So let's have the discussion now, right? I guess the reason why, I'll admit, it was a little bit of bias, obviously, again. I had the I'm Still Here review. Obviously, again, the Brazilian community really, really came out to show their support for that movie. Like, that was really showing off in droves on the internet.
It got in picture too, so
right, and getting picture was a big indicator because I feel like if the Fernando Torres and the I'm Still Here narrative never happens and it's more of a horse race between Mikey and Demi, then that would have been one thing. But Fernando Torres kind of coming out of nowhere and the international presence having, you know, the impact that it's had on the Academy the last couple of years, I feel like that's kind of what really swayed me and made me want to go towards that. I knew it was winning as soon as the Emilia Perez fuck up happened, I'm going to call it that what it is. I knew that it was winning international feature. There wasn't a doubt in my mind. I knew it didn't have a shot at picture, but I'm like, there was a shot that it could have won because that performance was that good and that different from the other four. Because compared to those other four performances, that performance is so low-key. It is so kind of real. Like, you feel like you're watching a real person. You don't feel like you're watching a performance, kind of. I guess that's what kind of really made that separate. But the thing that's so cool about the Mikey Madison win is that she's got to hold the record now for what? She's got to be the youngest Best Actress winner since who? Like, I don't remember the last time we had somebody
or Jennifer
or Emma Stone, maybe. But even Emma Stone wasn't that young because Emma Stone was already 30. No, she wasn't. She was
Jennifer Lawrence was in her 20s. I feel like
Jennifer Lawrence was 22. So Jennifer Lawrence, I think, still holds the record. Jennifer Lawrence was 22, 23. Emma Stone was 25. I want to say.
What about Brie Larson?
Brie Larson is a year younger than Emma Stone, so that would have made her, that was the year before, so that would have made her like 23, 24 when she won. So Mikey Madison's in that camp as well, so she's not the youngest to win, but she's up there in terms of showing that, okay, the Academy can actually award someone in the moment of their fame as opposed to making them work for it until they win for something that, like, oh, they should have won like 3 or 4 movies ago. They didn't Chalamet or DiCaprio her, which was really cool.
Yeah, that was surprising because it's like, it's funny though that they're more likely to do that in actress than actor.
Right.
It's just really strange.
I'm wondering if that's kind of a little bit more of kind of the post-Me Too impact as well. Because you look at the winners that have happened since Me Too, right? For Best Actress specifically, McDormand has won twice, putting her in the rare 3-time Best Actress winner, which I don't even think Meryl Streep has that because Meryl Streep's only got the 2 for Best Actress and the 1 for supporting. So so McDormand for both 3 Billboards and Nomadland. You've got Olivia Colman for The Favorite. You've got Renee Zellweger for Judy. You've got oh my God, wow. Jessica Chastain for Eyes of Tammy Faye. Michelle Yeoh for Everything Ever All at Once. And recently Emma Stone, with also back-to-back Best Actress winner as well. So it's interesting that Mikey Madison is the youngest winner kind of since, ironically, Emma Stone probably before.
Brie Larson.
Well, Brie Larson's the year before Emma Stone. So they're like right around the same age at that time period. So what's it called? So that's kind of what's really cool about that one. And also, yeah, just the fact that it's kind of a not just a breakthrough performance, but it's kind of, this is going to kind of indicate her, and I feel like kind of propel her into kind of like the Zendaya Sydney Sweeney spot of being kind of one of the defining generational talents.
For sure.
But also, like, you know, deserving it as well. You know, she's a couple years younger than the two of them, but yeah, it kind of, for lack of a better word, shows that the youth still have a chance. You know, this is not just an older person's game. You know, and even though Chalamet did not win tonight, Chalamet's presence was still felt, I feel like, throughout the entire ceremony as well. Complete Unknown did not get a single win.
Didn't get any wins.
Yep, unfortunately. But I still feel like his presence was known, especially since it's only been a week since his infamous speech at the SAGs. I'm looking over it, right? Really, Sean Baker is the big winner tonight. A lot of my predictions really panned out. I'm still here for international feature. Dune Part 2 for sound and visuals. Conclave for adapted. Anora for original. Wicked for production design and costume design. Substance for makeup was a big one. That was a big one because there was a hot second that I was worried and I thought it was going to go to Wicked, but very, very well-deserved win for the Substance there. I was very happy about that.
Substance was the easy favorite. When Honora won editing, that was really what
that was the giveaway.
That was the sealed deal for me, where I'm like, oh, it's winning.
Yeah, definitely.
It has to win. Because it's like, and that's a prediction I had like a week ago also that really made me mad, where it's like, I really thought he would win editing because like maybe like they would be impressed that the director is the editor also, but
right.
And then I switched it to Conclave at the end because everyone was saying,
yeah, I felt for that as well. I
then
felt for that
again,
as well.
what I also got wrong was A Real Pain. It's in screenplay. I thought that was going to win, and it didn't. And that was one of the last minute changes that I made as well.
Yeah.
But when he went screenplay and then especially editing, I was like, oh shit.
Yeah, it's happening. You were like, it's happening.
But I was glad that I still had Honora for director and picture.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I thought the Fernanda Torres buzz was gonna come through because if I didn't vote for her, I feel like Mikey Madison would have lost.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just that is a weird feeling I had. I know she won the BAFTA, but like I guess we're gonna have to take BAFTA Best Actress
seriously now. Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing. That's the thing. Yeah. So I guess kind of that's my question, right? That's really kind of the big thing that I'm trying to figure out is Mikey Madison's only precursor is the BAFTA because Fernanda gets the Golden Globe and Demi pretty much swept everything else. So kind of what are we thinking resulted in this year? Because I feel like
they just liked Honora the most, and I guess they didn't think it would make sense for Honora to win Best Picture without awarding, Mikey Madison.
Right.
That wouldn't make any sense.
Yeah, the Best Actress race is starting to turn into one that's really kind of become like the one of the focal center points of the for I guess for lack of a better word, surprises really of the last couple of years. Because 2 years ago, Michelle Yeoh wins over Cate Blanchett, who I feel like a lot of people deserve. The year before that, Jessica Chastain wins. And even though she was pretty much the favorite throughout that ceremony, I feel like The Eyes of Tammy Faye was definitely one of the lesser viewed Oscar movies that year. Then last year, obviously the big, it's weird because again, I feel like even though Emma Stone was a favorite, Lily Gladstone was, what's it called? Lily Gladstone was I feel like the favorite.
Predicted favorite. Yeah, because of the narrative.
Right. But what's funny about that is I was actually listening to a couple of podcasts from The Town as well recently, the Matt Bellany podcast on the Ringer Network. And they actually pointed out something that was quite interesting about the Best Actress race as well. And the reason why some of the people may have won recently. And that's that. And I can't believe I'm saying this, literally I listened to this morning and it's exactly how it panned out, where the Mikey Demi kind of back and forth is almost a little bit similar to the Emma Lily Gladstone thing last year, where Lily Gladstone, you can make the argument, not really the lead of the movie, not in every frame of the movie, versus Emma Stone, who is the focal center of Poor Things. Kind of the same thing this time, where Demi at the end of the day is sharing screen time with Margaret Qualley, as opposed to Mikey Madison is the focal point. She's in pretty much every frame of that movie, like there's like maybe like a microframe that she's not in, but she owns that movie. She is that movie. So I feel like that might be something to look out for, might be like a serious point of contention to look out for going forward for Best Actress.
Yeah, I just thought like the whole Fernanda Torres angle was like it got in Best Picture, And the fact that more people were going to have eyes on it, I thought it was going to give her the advantage, even in spite of not being nominated for SAG or BAFTA. Like I thought, like it was just going to be one of those years
Yeah.
that it was just like, oh, it's this person.
Yeah. It was a weird
Oh,
year. It was a weird year, definitely. But if there's one thing that I can say, it's that this proves my point. Bad, not necessarily bad years, weird years, I should say. I'm going to reclassify it as that way. Weird year. Because you can make the argument that every year so far of this decade has been
Anora is
bad.
not a typical.
Right, exactly. That's the other thing,
winner.
too. Anora, as well, as a Best Picture winner. You know, like, people are kind of sleeping on that because, again, it was kind of the favorite. It emerged as the favorite throughout the award ceremony. But movies like Anora do not usually get nominated. Really, if you want to run down this entire Best Picture list, I mean, the only, I guess, traditional
Conclave.
Oscar favorites you could say, Conclave, Complete Unknown, and I guess Nickel Boys, if you take the shooting style out of it, I would make the argument that Nickel Boys. But every other movie on this list, Wicked, Substance, Anora, Brutalist. Well, I mean, Wicked being kind of the big musical insert this year, but it actually like being good and kind of honoring the source material and in a weird.
The thing that was making me apprehensive about Anora since Cannes is like, as soon as everyone saw it at Cannes, what was the one movie everyone kept comparing it to? Uncut Gems.
Uncut Gems.
They kept comparing it to the one movie that
Yeah.
that notoriously was snubbed for everything.
Yes.
So I'm just like, okay, so if the Academy didn't like Uncut Gems, what would make them like Anora? I guess the women.
Girls shaking their asses. Girls shaking their asses. It works every time. Every time.
About a woman being wrong.
That.
You know what I mean? Where it's like, I think it's more so that. Where it's like, I like they were just paying attention to that aspect of the movie, but like, I guess they tolerated it more. You know, the energy that Uncut Gems had, like that Anora definitely has.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think it's a bad comparison, but like, it's funny that a movie like that is compared to it when that movie wasn't nominated for anything.
Right. Yeah, that is interesting because you know what's so funny about that? Like I remember when I first saw the first, like when I first saw the first trailer for Anora, when that first dropped. I don't remember when that is. You'd probably know better than me, but when that first dropped, I'm like, I'm getting Uncut Gems vibes from it, which was part of the reason why I got so invested in that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's funny that you say that. Yeah, it really. Overall, not only is this a triumph for Anora at the end of the day, but really, again,
independent film.
Not even just for independent film. I feel like this is a triumph for film itself. And I know that sounds so hackneyed, you know, coming off of the last couple of years. But I feel like with Oppenheimer last year, in hindsight, really, I feel like that's going to go down in history as, okay, Nolan finally got his due. He was long overdue after having been snubbed for Dark Knight and Inception and all the incredible movies that he'd given us throughout the course of his career. And that was kind of his Spielberg Schindler's List moment where he's like, okay, I'm making an Academy-friendly movie. You know, now it's time for me to get mine. This year was the year where I felt like was the tribute to film, because even though Anora is kind of the big winner, the fact that you got movies like The Brutalist, like The Substance, like... what's it called? Like Real Pain. The fact that you get kind of all of these smaller, really more intimate movies. That's the other thing, too, that I pointed out to people. I think this year, this Best Picture race holds the record for just a number of my favorite movies getting nominated. Also, the fact that it's funny because my two favorite movies of the last 2 years, Everything Everywhere All at Once and Oppenheimer, ended up, my number ones of both of those years respectively, ended up getting Best Picture. This year, it was your number one. Your number one, Anora. Got it.
Finally.
So... Yeah,
5 years in. Yeah, 5 years in.
Yeah, what was the last time that happened?
Moonlight.
Fuck, that's more than 5 years, my friend.
No, but 5 years into the decade. I mean,
yes,
like,
yes, 5 years into the decade.
But like, Moonlight is the last one, and
Jesus
you were
Christ, that's 8 years since that win. Fuck.
Mm-hmm.
When I passed out in your place and missed the whole thing, and then missed the infamous envelope screw up because I drove home.
You were in the fetal
Oh my
position.
God, that was
funny.
Oh, that was less said about that night, the better.
But, no, but you were like, yeah, they announced La La Land, and you left, and as soon as you left,
as soon as I left,
the guy came, as soon as you shut the door to the porch, the fucking bald guy was like, "No, Moonlight won." That's
so funny. Dustin, you want to see something crazy? This is a trip from memory lane. I still have my ballot from that year.
Cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm 18-6. Yeah, the ones that I missed that year. I missed makeup and hair. I had Star Trek Beyond. It went to Suicide Squad.
I
Cinematography
had like
went
19
to
or 20 that year.
yeah. I had 18 that year. My first year, like really participating too.
Mhm.
I missed La La Land for cinematography. I missed Hacksaw Ridge for editing. I missed City of Stars for original song. I missed Arrival for sound editing. And I missed Fantastic Beasts got costume design. I got
Yeah,
everything
right?
else though. Yeah, that was the year where it's like, oh, these movies that are like actually bad are winning Oscars. I'm like, this is not good.
Suicide Squad.
This is the Suicide Squad and Fantastic Beasts. The first one are both Oscar winners. I'm like, what the hell is happening? And then I passed out for the rest of the night.
You're
But
just like, I'm gonna go.
you
eat
literally
a
had to keep
visit.
track of the awards ceremony for me. That's what
Yeah,
that was so funny. Like you had me beat by what? One by how many
like
that year?
2.
Yeah.
Like 1 or 2.
I did pretty good though for my first year really betting. Or real, you
Yeah,
know?
right? It wasn't bad.
Yeah. That was
Wasn't
pretty
bad.
good. Yeah, not bad.
You
Not
got me
bad.
this year. You got me by 1 this year. It's fine. It's the
Listen,
real pain. It's the real pain one that really fucked me
you know
over.
what's so
Otherwise, I would
funny?
have been tied with you because
You
it's
know
like
it's
that
so
was the one, and actress also. But like,
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I feel bad because I feel like I talked you into that. But you know what's funny too is this is the one year where I was like, man, I don't know if I should bet on the Oscars. It's too unpredictable. But then I ended up getting most of the categories right. And I'm like, fuck, I actually kind of regret not betting now.
yeah, right.
I could have potentially made a lot of money. The problem is though, like a lot of the upsets that I would have bet on, I would have made money on because the problem is where you make money on betting is with like the upsets, the ones that really nobody see coming. Like for example, if we were to bet on say like Brady Corbet for director or like we did Fernanda Torres for best actress, but if they had won, we would have possibly cleared like $1,000
What
on that
about
category betting
what
on
about a
FanDuel.
Nora for editing?
No, I think Nora at that point had like just surpassed Conclave for number one. I think. I'd have to recheck the odds, but
But
Nora emerges as the front runner. 5 wins: picture, director, actress, original screenplay, and editing.
it only missed on Euroboros.
Literally only missed on Yura Borisov. He was the only one who missed.
That's funny.
Brutalist walks away with 2, cinematography and score. Dune 2 walks away with 2, visual effects and sound. Wicked walks away with 2,
One I
makeup and
wanted to
production
talk
design.
about.
Yes.
I wanted to talk about the first award. Robert Downey Jr.
Robert Downey Jr. gave it.
giving Kieran Culkin, and you could really tell that like that really meant a lot to Kieran Culkin.
Yeah, it did.
Because it's like
It did.
that's literally because like Robert Downey Jr. like calls out Kieran Culkin when he's introducing everybody, like, yeah, you're just doing me. Like, it's
That was
like,
great. I
like,
love that.
You know that like Kieran Culkin was like that was like an ego punch for him because
it
was.
was.
Like, because it's like ever since like at least Scott Pilgrim, everyone would be like, okay, he's doing a Robert Downey Jr. Like he's trying to be like the new Robert Downey Jr. of like the 2010s, I would say, and like and how the way he's always like managed like his awards wins, like at the Emmys or and for any of the film ones for this season, like he's just been very Downey Jr. coded his whole life. So that when he finally says like, "Oh, this really means a lot coming from you," like that
was
really,
great.
that really,
That
like,
was
hit home.
awesome.
I was like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, this feels
That
like a
was
full
cool.
circle moment."
Yeah.
Because when Robert Downey Jr. came out, I thought like, "Oh, is he doing supporting actress?"
Right. That's the thing they didn't do the role reversal like they usually do.
Because they usually do that.
Yeah.
But every 5 years they like change it up and they're like,
Yep.
okay, we'll have the same sex do it for
Yep.
this person.
Hey, it worked. I think it worked. It really did. I
Yeah,
love
that was great. When
Yeah.
just starting the show out with Downey Jr. giving it to his to his protege.
Yeah, I missed it because I was on the train going between parties. Did Cillian come out to present for Adrian Brody or no?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
he did.
Yes.
Yeah, that was cool because in a way I feel like kind of the previous year's winner rewarding this year's winner for their respective category. Like it felt like an easy like I don't know, like this might have just been me, but like did you notice how it's like the transition Downey to Kieran, Divine to Zoe Saldana, Emma Stone to Mikey, and then Killian to Adrian Brody. Like there was like a synergy with all of those categories, you know, that kind of just like
I don't really see the synergy between Killian and Adrian.
Well, see, it's funny that you bring that up. It's funny that you bring that up because those two, Brody was a bad guy on season 4 of Peaky Blinders. So that's funny that you bring that up.
Yeah.
Because those two kind of already had a little bit of antagonistic energy going forward.
Okay.
Yeah.
You got
Another
me.
thing, big record too. Brody, officially in the 2-time Best Actor category.
That's awesome.
How many other people like is that? Like Day Lewis, Jack Nicholson, Hackman's not in there. Spacey's not in there.
De Niro's not in there either.
De Niro's not in there. Is Dustin Hoffman in there? No. No, yeah, Dustin Hoffman. Dustin Hoffman's in there. Rain Man and Kramer versus Kramer. So how many other people besides Tom Hanks is in there, obviously? So wow. So Day Lewis, Nicholson, Hoffman, Tom Hanks, Adrian Brody, Spencer Tracy, yes. Back to back as well. I want to say Jack Lemmon, but I may have to check with that.
Did Nicholson only win 2?
Only 2 Best Actor. Yeah, he has a third, but it was Terms of Endearment was supporting. It's Cuckoo's Nest and As Good as It Gets for him.
Yeah, so he's in there too.
Yeah, Nicholson's in there.
Okay.
Yeah, Brody, 2-time Best Actor winner. That's awesome.
Deserved.
Very well deserved. He is up there. He is one of the few.
I'm glad I stuck with that one. Yeah.
Yeah, I knew it was,
had the momentum.
Same.
Chalamet is too young looking.
They're gonna DiCaprio Chalamet for sure. Like Chalamet is already kind of.
Adrian Brody was the same age as Timothy Chalamet, but like
he had a gravitas and like a maturity.
Yeah.
Yes. He had a world weariness to him. Like 30-year-olds back in the early 2000s didn't look like children the way they do now.
Or decade earlier.
Yes.
And etc.
Yes.
Like people from the 90s and then the 80s. They all look older.
Yes.
But like
they do.
Adrian Brody like had more of like a gravitas and like maturity, I feel like, against that race. Where it's
the irony being,
and he was in a Best Director winner. So it's like Pianist winning for director was like big on for Adrian Brody winning actor, but like I don't know, like I they're gonna wait a long time for Timothy Chalamet. I don't even think even if he gets nominated next year for Marty Supreme, like, I don't think he'll win for that.
That's the other big thing too also about Chalamet is that even though he's been in a lot of things in the last couple of years, Beautiful Boy, Lady Bird, Little Women, Dune, obviously,
the Dune
this is only his second nomination since Call Me By Your Name.
Yeah, but like a lot of people would acknowledge that he was egregiously snubbed for Beautiful Boy.
100%.
Like 100%. Like he was pretty much like the 6th place. Like he was the 6th man.
Especially also like I'm sorry, Richard E. Grant for Can You Ever Forgive Me? Like, come on, get him out of there. You easily could have put Timmy in place of him.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's that's ridiculous.
Yeah,
to me. But like if them going for the Bob Dylan performance, that doesn't. Yeah,
it worked. They put in a great campaign. He's a star on the rise. He will get his Oscar. He's already got Marty Supreme coming out this year. Trust me, he's got a very, very good career ahead of him.
If this year's Best Actor race is really that abysmal, which I don't think it's going to be, but like that's the only way he could win for Marty Supreme.
But I don't see that happening this year.
I don't see it, even if he gets nominated.
Yeah,
I don't see it happening.
Yeah, definitely.
He's got to be he's got to turn 40 until he wins an Oscar. I feel like.
Yep, it's true. Hey, he's already 29, so he's only got another 10 years before he could possibly do that. Right. So that's what's crazy. His birthday's what? Only like 3-4 days after yours?
Yeah, exactly. He's my age. He's
crazy.
Literally my age.
It's crazy. It's crazy, but he looks younger than me. It's nuts.
Yeah.
Yeah, so really not too much else, honestly, as far as tonight goes. Really, like I said, it's just for me, it feels like a win for film ultimately, and it's the first year that it feels like they actually meant that, and that's really the big takeaway.
Yeah,
it didn't matter where
as much as you love Everything Everywhere All at Once.
I do, yes.
Like that, and a lot of people do. Like you're not the only one, but like I don't. Like that did feel more like a pandery win than an Oregon.
Not even just that. It was the fact that my problem with that year as a whole is that year it felt like, oh, that was the only choice because you look at its competition and it was kind of embarrassing because if Avatar or Top Gun wins, you're like, okay, that's just because that's a blockbuster choice.
Right.
Banshees, Fabelmans, those movies were like they just felt like they weren't quite all there. The fact that really, if you ask me, the only other worthwhile movie in that whole race besides Everything Everywhere that deserved its spot was Tar. Really should have told you everything about that year.
Tar should have won that year.
It was a lackluster, very underwhelming year to begin with. That's my problem with that year.
Tar was the best one, easily. Like it's not even close.
Yeah. And then you can kind of sort of make the argument with the year after. It was a stronger slate, but again, it's just the fact of everything was in service of Oppenheimer and Nolan that year that it really just made the competition kind of feel lackluster. This year, it
kind
really
of felt like that, though, by the time Sean Baker started to, like, really sweep.
When he started to sweep, yes.
Like, this is, like, just as good as Oppenheimer's success, I feel like.
Yes, but the difference is that it wasn't really like kind of set in stone. Like when Oppenheimer came, Oppenheimer was basically set in stone from the moment that it came out. It really did. It kind of steamrolled its way through the rest of the year. Anora really was the little engine that could. Like it worked its way up to that spot. Because again, for a long time, like at the beginning of this award, remember at the beginning of this award ceremony, people were saying it was going to be The Brutalist.
Yeah, because that's the more traditional, like, workmanlike, more like American like tale.
Right. No, but my point is that
like, because it's like people like just saw The Brutalist and like thought of it more on the outset like an Oscar movie, like a typical Oscar movie, as opposed to Anora, which is a lot more like gritty and like avant-garde compared to the typical Best Picture winner, I would say.
Yes.
Like,
Yes,
it's kind of an anomaly. Like, this Best Picture win is very but like we said, like, as soon as it went editing, like, halfway through the show, we were like, "Yeah, this is gonna win." I think.
It's one of those things where
it'd be weird if it won editing and it didn't win picture at this point.
It's one of those things where from a ceremony standpoint, it's like once you get to a certain point and you see a certain movie win certain awards, you can kind of figure it out. We broke this all down with Justin when he was on for our Oscars prediction episode back in February. But the thing about it is that, again, it's the fact that this really was a tribute to the little movies, the little movies that could be, and the fact that it bounced around so much, from Brutalist to Substance. People were saying Complete Unknown, Emilia Perez being the most nominated movie ever, and then fucking itself completely, with those tweets once those were released.
I still don't think it would have done.
I never thought it had a chance. It's funny because the Oscar predictor that was on this morning on the town said the exact same thing. He was like, yeah, regardless of whether the tweets would have happened, it wouldn't have mattered. Zoe still would have won. The movie still would have won original song. The only thing that kind of got screwed up was it was definitely going to win Best Foreign Film up until those tweets came out. Then the narrative shifted.
How cringy was that Best Original Song speech by that one lady?
I tuned out during that. That was the one
point.
My
God. She started singing during
it. Was so funny.
It was so bad.
One of the other guys who I was at one of the party with was complaining the entire time. He's like, if this fucking song wins, I'm like, it's going to win. It's going to win. And then it won. And I looked at him and he just had this look of disgust on his face. And then they started singing and I'm like, oh God, make it stop.
She started making them sing. And then if you notice when they were walking off the stage, the other songwriter, like he was like walking like miles ahead of the other.
He was like, I gotta get off the stage as quickly as possible.
Yeah, this was embarrassing as
fuck. They're like, how much longer can we continue this facade by and not pretend that our lead star is a trans Nazi? Like, what is?
That and like that lady that wrote the song, like she
just looked cracked out.
The way that she was speaking. What she was saying though didn't even make sense. Like she didn't even like speak English.
And you notice how too like Jacques Audiard had to come on stage because he knew that was going to be his only time to be on stage the entire night.
He's a douchebag.
Yeah,
I don't like Jacques Audiard. He's a piece of shit. I tried watching A Prophet when I was a teenager and I slept through it. He can go fuck himself. He's a fucking pretentious asshole. He had no idea what he was making.
That's for damn sure.
And it's honestly the amount of nominate. I mean, it didn't win. It won 2 Oscars, but the fact that it got 13 nominations is still like
insane.
It's still like, are you kidding me?
Yeah,
you're really trying to like. If this was really Netflix's first I was telling you this. Like, if this was their first Best Picture winner, that would have been the funniest thing of all time.
Yeah, it would have. I'm really glad it didn't though.
Because but I never believed its narrative, even when it had the 13 nominations and before the controversy, because like no one liked the movie that much. Like no one was that like no one had this as their favorite of the year.
Yeah.
You know what? Like,
in fact, I know many people who had it in their had it in their worst of the year.
Yeah, but even if there was in their worst, like there was like even top critics who had it in their best of the year list, they didn't have it as their number 1.
Right.
So the fact that like it was just getting all these crazy nominations, because it's like Jeff Snyder was kind of right, where he's like, Amelia Perez is more nominatable than more of the movies in terms of like the technicals and everything, where it's like they feel obligated to nominate a movie
Sure.
for certain categories. That doesn't mean the most, because like I was telling my aunt this, like American Hustle had like 12 or 13 nominations.
Yeah, it did.
And it didn't like win anything. So
Yeah.
it's like some movies just fucking goose egg, or they get 1 or 2.
But I mean, that's also been a case throughout the history of the Oscars, specifically in recent memory. These movies that get like 12, 13 nominations to get
Power of the
no
Dog
wins.
got a lot of nominations too,
And
right?
but it still got the win for director,
which
but
doesn't make any sense.
But look at Irishman. Look at Marriage Story. Only got the 1 win for Laura Dern.
Jane Campion only won because she's a woman. That's the only reason why she won.
Yes.
And you call me sexist in the comic, I don't care. She won because she was the one female in the category, and they didn't nominate Sean Heater for Coda, so they had to give it to Jane Campion. That's what it was. And she had a good career before that, and they just wanted to give it to a woman. That's what it was. It was a very good movie, but it wasn't like the director of the year, maybe cinematography or score, or especially
and the fact that Denny got
like Benedict Cumberbatch, like when Will Smith slapped Chris Rock, I turned to my aunt and I was like, I really hope Benedict Cumberbatch wins now. I was like this is a disgrace.
The irony being that was the one ceremony this whole decade that I haven't watched, because the ceremony the year before, the COVID ceremony, was one of the worst things I've ever seen. And I'm like, I'm never watching the Oscars again after that. And then the Will Smith slap happened the year after. And I'm like, you got to be fucking kidding me. Now I've got to tune into these stupid things going forward. Thankfully, they've gotten better since then.
A.B. Schubert, Wanda Sykes, Regina Hall fiasco.
Correct.
So you just saw like the clip of him slapping him.
Yes. Yeah. That whole Oscar ceremony, from what I heard, was not good.
He is mentally ill.
Will Smith, you don't say.
He is. Like, he just,
you don't say.
You won the BAFTA. You're winning the Oscar. Fucking don't do that.
Yeah.
Like, you fucking crazy. He's a fucking fake asshole anyway.
Yeah.
I like Will Smith. I'll always appreciate Will Smith for early in his career and how he established himself. But once he started to like reach like super mega stardom, he just didn't.
Yeah.
Like, he doesn't have, like, he would never do a bit like Adam Sandler did at the beginning of the
year. But like, that was awesome too. When I saw that was
like,
great.
Like, it was cool that Adam Sandler, who I've compared to Will Smith a little bit, I've compared them to each other in the past, in just terms of like what their choices and like just decisions they make and how they portray themselves on screen. But Adam Sandler, just the fact that he would have the confidence and just charisma and humility to do that, Will Smith would never do anything like that.
I agree.
Let alone host
Will
SNL
Smith is all about Will Smith is all about his image, except
like
for
Will Smith. It is shocking though that Will Smith. It is weird though. I know you're not a big SNL fan, but it is weird when I say that Will Smith has never hosted SNL before.
Really?
Right? Exactly.
Okay, that's shocking even to
He's
me.
Never hosted.
Even
before.
To me, who could, for the most part, could give less of a shit about SNL. That's surprising.
Which is kind of telling to me, where it's like a person like that doesn't want to host SNL usually.
Because that's the ultimate mark, I feel like, of somebody who takes themselves too seriously.
Exactly. It's way too seriously, so self-conscious and like too controlling.
Yeah.
Where it's like, that makes a lot of sense. Where it's like some actors like Leo, when Leo doesn't want to do SNL, it's kind of more understandable because he's more of like a, like, I gotta study and like really like I don't necessarily need to be like a television like pop-up, you know. But Will Smith thinks he's like Leo, and he's not.
Not even close.
He's not even close. And he really didn't even deserve that Oscar.
No.
He won because he was a big Hollywood star that everyone liked. And then when he slapped Chris Rock, everyone was like, whoa, are you even the person we thought you were?
Not to mention the fact that easily the worst best actor race of the decade so far. And I mean, that's really not saying much.
Really, because like Benedict Cumberbatch was like clearly like amazing.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like the fact that Cumberbatch was the best person in that race, and everybody else like look at who his competition were: Will Smith, Javier Bardem, Andrew Garfield, and Denzel. Come on.
No.
Come on.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like Benedict Cumberbatch should have been sweeping that whole season.
At the very
Like,
least,
it's not even like him losing BAFTA to me is like one of the most baffling things I've ever lived
at the
through.
very least, the thing about the following 2 years is that Frazier at least had competition between Butler and Colin Farrell, and it was a 2-horse race between Austin Butler and Frazier before Frazier ultimately got it.
Farrell petered out.
Right, and then the year after, you said it was between Killian and Giamatti for a while before Killian kind of overtook everything.
It was
so at the very least,
Cillian Murphy ended up sweeping, but Paul Giamatti did win Critics' Choice. So I'm pretty sure like he had that one win going in before like everybody else, and like once Cillian Murphy got the Golden Globe, it was
kind of over. But that's my point. Like at the very least, with those 2 years, there was competition, and I gotta say, the one saving grace about the COVID year, which again, one of the worst things I've ever seen on television, that Best Actor race was pretty great. Pretty great Best Actor race. Riz Ahmed, Chadwick Boseman, Gary Oldman, Stephen Yeun, and Anthony Hopkins. That's a solid 5 right there for Best Actor.
I mean, I just think it's still egregious though that they edited that Oscars with the Best Actor instead of Best Picture, and they gave it to Anthony Hopkins. I just think that's hilarious.
Horrible.
Because
it's horrible ceremony.
Because Will Packer produced that year, and I was like, that had to have been like a thing where it's like he was so confident that Chadwick was going to win.
Yes,
that
100%.
Like, he moved it to the last spot without realizing that he lost.
Yes,
which is like
hysterical, and that everybody was up in arms after that.
And Anthony
I was even like after that ceremony, was like, "Are you fucking kidding me?"
And
like,
Anthony Hopkins wasn't even there,
right? Because of COVID,
the award,
right?
So
he
he
even had to go on and basically be like, yeah, I know everybody was kind of expecting Chadwick to get this. I'm sorry I won. I really don't know what to say. I kind of have no control over that process.
He didn't even fucking say anything because they didn't cut to him.
No. I'm saying he released a video after the fact, basically talking about that.
I didn't even see that.
Yes.
But I didn't know that. But that's how confident they were that Will Packer was like, oh, they're gonna have to give it to Chadwick Boseman. He's a black dead guy.
Yeah,
he was great.
He died. He had to. He was Black Panther. We gotta give it to his legacy.
I've seen The Father since then, and I do think Chadwick Boseman deserved it.
Okay.
I still think Chadwick Boseman deserved that award.
Yeah.
I really don't want to be on the side of like, oh yeah, Anthony Hopkins is like the greatest. Like no, like Anthony Hopkins is great, but like Chadwick, especially if you're reserving the award for the last of the night,
right?
That's like insane to me.
Yeah.
And like someone should have told Will Packer right before the show started. Okay,
Chadwick's not winning.
Maybe
change it.
Maybe you shouldn't have actor at the last.
Yeah.
Why is Chadwick winning? Just change it.
Just change it. Yeah, probably a better idea to just change it.
Right. And he just didn't. Yeah. And that was probably a more boneheaded move than Will Smith eventually winning for Best Actor the year after. So it's like that's insane to me.
Yeah. Yeah. So like I said, overall narratives to take away. Honora, the little movie that could really overtaking everything. This whole ceremony really being an homage to the movies for the first time in years, even though they've been claiming to do that for years.
Was it really?
I think it was. From what I saw, I think it was. And it was there with the musical numbers too. The opening numbers with Wicked, the homage to Bond, Oprah coming on.
The Wicked shit, like
it was fine. It didn't bother me.
That was the thing that felt padded to me because like they announced before the show that they weren't going to do like the musical,
which honestly would given the overall quality of the songs that were nominated, I'm very okay with that choice.
I agree, but like then they always have to put in other numbers, if they're not gonna, and that's still annoying. And I don't like Cynthia Erivo.
Yes,
I just genuinely just
and that's fine. But I will say that considering the fact that the musical numbers have almost always been my least favorite part of the ceremony traditionally, the fact that I didn't hate a single one of them and actually was kind of into them, like Doja Cat and the other two that came out and did the 3 Bond songs.
Doja Cat was easily the highlight of
that blew me away. I didn't know she had that in her.
She was great.
Like
Only
really,
the
really
other,
good.
The other two were very underwhelming.
Yeah, I'll admit. Well, for me, it was the dance number with Margaret Qualley that kind of threw me off, and then
Yeah,
when
that's
the
what I'm
girl
saying.
came out singing,
Margaret Qualley
Live and Let
coming
Die.
when Anna de Armas is right there in the fucking crowd, where it's like
Right,
and then
yeah.
they cut to her right after, and she looks so disappointed because she was a Bond girl.
Literally was a Bond girl.
It's like,
yeah.
why couldn't she just go up
And then
there
they didn't
dance
bring out
sexually?
Adele to sing Skyfall. I'll admit that killed me.
That's what
It's
I'm
like,
saying.
come on,
It's
the
like-
one of those songs that won the fucking Oscar.
They brought out that rye bread girl or whatever her name
Oh,
is,
man.
and she fucking did like a hat, like kind of like she tried near the very end, like the last like 20 seconds. She really tried with the high note, but no one touches Adele. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
Adele is like kind of incompetent.
That might be, and it's funny. I gotta really think about this, but I think that that might be my favorite best original song winner of the last decade. It has to be. I think it's objectively the
Skyfall?
best one. Yeah, Skyfall.
I mean, did
Well, I mean, what's
wait a
better than
minute.
it?
Well, I'm gonna tell you what song from Call Me by Your Name won? Was it?
Let me check that one. I actually have that here.
Was it Visions of Gideon?
Let me check. I think it was Visions of Gideon. Hold on, I have
That
it
would-
right
That would
here.
be my. That would be my.
No. Nope. It wasn't any song of Call Me by Your Name. Mystery of Love was nominated, not Visions of Gideon. Remember Me from Coco won that year.
Fuck that.
Yeah.
What were
That's
the
what I'm
other
saying.
winners? Then I feel like there's one. You gotta run.
So,
you gotta. Run
2016, it's City of Stars, La La Land. 2017, Remember Me, Coco. 2018, it's Shallow. Okay, Shallow is pretty great. Shallow, Star is Born.
Yeah. That's
Yeah,
my
there you
pick
go.
so
There you
far.
go. 2019 and 20, I don't remember. 2021, it's No Time to Die, which was
It's
pretty good.
Shallow. Shallow is better than Skyfall.
I like Skyfall better than Shallow because Shallow's not my favorite song from that.
Because people don't get shot and Star is Born. That's why.
Well, no, my what's it called? Because Shallow's not even my favorite song from Star is Born. Always Remember Us This Way. That's my favorite song.
The Rope is the coward's way for you.
Crazy.
Oh
Oh, man.
you. That's what you're implying.
Just saying, it's not my favorite. It's not my favorite song from the movie. It's not my favorite song. Always Remember Us This Way. That's the best song from that movie. Anyway, so you got any predictions?
No,
You're
like,
wait.
I'm not letting you get off.
You're like, let's break this
down. The best
further.
song in A Star Is Born is Black Dog.
Black Eyes.
Black Eyes from the opening scene where he does the.
It's good. It's not my favorite.
That's the best song in the movie.
Okay.
It's
not my favorite.
It has a guitar solo that he does.
It's pretty awesome. It's a pretty fucking fantastic opener to the movie.
Perform that, whatever.
Yes. Listen. There's a reason why I'm saying my favorite is Always Remember Us This Way. My absolute favorite. When I think of that movie, I think of that song.
Your favorite is the song she plays during the SNL performance.
Oh God, that scene. Oh man,
the song that you're not supposed to like.
Literally, like, that sequence like that is the reason why
That's
that movie
your favorite song.
didn't work for me.
No, it's your favorite.
Why it didn't work for me? I'm just saying.
It's a great movie. Shut up.
It's due for a rewatch. I'll say that. It's due for a rewatch. I haven't seen it
Bradley
since it came
Cooper
out.
deserved the win that year.
Listen, Bradley Cooper, we know deserved Best Actor that year, and Bradley Cooper should have fucking won for that year because if he'd won for that year, we would have gotten Hangover 4 instead of Maestro. So,
well, at least you're pro Hangover 4.
Of course.
Okay. All right. I'll give you that. All right. Good.
So
you're not one of those people that shits on Todd Phillips for no reason.
No, I'm not. You know how much I love Joker too. Like, come on.
Well, I know you like a good number of his movies.
Yeah, he hasn't made a lot of bad movies. The only really bad movie for me that I saw of him was Hangover 2. That's really it.
Yeah, that's the one that you didn't care for. But, but
I didn't make
that's
it
not one of the worst movies you've ever seen. Then.
Yeah, I love Old School. Love First Hangover. I love.
Will you ever see War Dogs?
Love War Dogs. Love that one.
Right.
Joker 1 doesn't work for me, but I acknowledge that. But I acknowledge that people like it.
No, because you love the fan script that didn't exist. That was a fake, and you preferred that over the actual movie, which was hilarious.
Wait, what, for the first Joker?
Yeah, because you read a script of the first Joker.
That was the script.
And you thought, all right.
No, dude, I'm telling you, that was the script for Joker. What I read, that's what happened in the movie. I'm serious. That's what happened.
Sure.
Literally almost to a T. I swear to God. Swear to God,
dialogue and
there
everything.
was
Okay.
literally the only thing they changed
You
was
believe that if you
Snazzy
want.
Beats Revelation. That was the only thing they changed.
And you're like, okay, well, it didn't follow that exact incel script I wanted, so it sucked. Like that's what you were like in the first movie, and then the second movie was like all transgressive, and you're like, I dig this.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, I don't get
Exactly.
you.
I'm like, it's holding the first movie to task. The
I don't
second movie is
understand.
great.
I'll go off on a tangent for a second. Like, I don't understand how you don't watch the last third, like the last half actually of the Joker, and be like, this is a fucking dope movie. I don't understand how you don't watch that. Like, how long ago have you seen Joker?
I haven't
'Cause
seen it since it came out.
yeah, that's what I mean. Like the last half of Joker, once he kills his mom and actually like has that arc of like, oh no, I'm actually the Joker now. Like it's like arguably a perfect movie.
I'll tell you why.
Like that's like a 10 out of 10.
I'll tell you why,
almost.
because to me, and again, it's part of the reason why I like Joker 2 as much as I do, because to me, it's like there's no conviction in what he's doing.
I
He's
think
kind of
there
just
is.
doing.
That's where
I don't
disagree.
think there is. I
There's
don't.
absolutely. Well,
I
he
think
thinks
he's
there is.
he.
That's
I
what
think
the
he's doing
character
it because I think he's doing it because he feels like he has no other choice
exactly
in the
Well,
moment.
Yeah, that's the
But
point.
but it's one of those things where it feels like he's kind of being dragged to do it, and like he doesn't. There's no conviction. He doesn't. The only time that there's conviction is when he kills his mom. That to me is the only time that it really feels like there's
and that's
conviction.
what sells his transition into like by the time
Like when
you
he
get
caps
to
De
the
Niro
scene,
at the end, when he caps
no,
De
no,
Niro
no,
at
no,
the
no.
end,
Before
he's
that,
hesitating up until
before
that point.
No, I don't agree at all. No, before that, when he kills Glenn Fleshler
Glenn
in front
Fleshler,
of
yeah.
in front of the midget, like that
Right.
whole sequence after he kills his mom, and he finally starts to become like the full-on Joker, and the midget is really like.
I think he has a crack. I think he has a break there from reality. But
Yeah.
I still, but that's part of the reason why I'm not as.
It was that sequence where you see Justin Theroux on Murray, right? Where it's like Justin Theroux shows up as like a guest, as like this like fictional actor, and like that's when he starts to snap or whatever. Like that's when it really started to like convince me, like, no, like this is a phenomenal character study that it really does feel like it's doing everything it's trying to respect the legacy of Taxi Driver.
If the first half of the movie had been a more natural build and not just like the world constantly shitting on him every 5 seconds,
Like,
then the
I
last
agree
half
with you.
probably would have worked a little bit more. Would have worked a little bit better for me.
I agree with you that the first half is a little too like it like incessantly like mean-spirited, but I really do think that the Joaquin Phoenix performance sells you throughout most of that first act. So by the time you get to like the second half of the movie, like it really does convince you. And if you're not, fine. But like by the time we get to the Robert De Niro scene, that's where it becomes like what, like this was the whole point of the movie. Like that's what Quentin Tarantino was talking about. Like that was like it was building to this moment, and it was genuinely tense, and you were rooting for the Joker character whether you wanted to or not. Like you really just like you wanted him to kill Robert De Niro. And I think that's kind of the genius of that first film. And the second movie is going for something a lot more different and a lot more surreal and a lot more introspective.
Which I think is why the second movie worked better for me.
Yeah, because it's a lot more introspective and a lot less predictable. I think that's why you appreciated that movie.
Yes, 100%.
Because you
100%.
You didn't expect where it was
exactly. After a certain point, the first one I knew exactly where it was going, and it just ruined a lot of the tension for me. Like, I'm sorry, like the minute that I realized, I'm like, oh, he's gonna kill De Niro at the end. That it ruined. There's no tension for me at all.
Well, there's no tension after that. I'll agree with you there, where it's like as soon as he kills De Niro, where it's like, oh, that's how Bruce Wayne's parents die. Is after that.
That's the only moment where I'm like, oh, that's cool. I like that.
Oh,
everything
really?
else, I'm like,
Okay, that's what I mean.
Yeah,
Like,
no, I've gone on. No, it's ironic because
we're so like opposite.
I know,
and
I've gone on record. I've been on record about that movie multiple times, where Bruce Wayne sections of that movie where he interacts with the younger Bruce, and then his actions.
No, I like that.
Those are my favorite sequences of the movie.
I like that those sequences and the Alfred stuff too.
Yeah,
but like
those are awesome.
But when you have like it makes sense within the context of the movie. Like I don't hate this, but like it's forced though by the point where he does that whole thing on the Murray show, and then someone random that we don't even fucking know just kills Bruce Wayne, or whatever. I think a more satisfying element of the second movie would have been if like the guy that killed Joaquin at the end of the first movie, I mean at the end of the second movie,
Was the same guy that killed Thomas and Martha Wayne in the first one.
there you go.
Yes, but
Like that would have made a lot more sense. And
yes, but I'll tell you
Yeah.
why I would not have liked that.
okay.
I think the most brilliant thing that the second one did was not having any mention or connection of the Waynes at all.
Sure.
At all.
Oh, yeah, I did
and focus
appreciate
it on
that,
the
yeah.
Joker, because this was
But it
all
was
about
literally following everything. Like it was like it was focusing on everything else that happened in the first movie other than the Bruce Wayne.
Yes, exactly. And that's why it was so interesting, because to me, it was all about the legacy and the fallout of the Joker character, because all of it is, if we're just taking at it purely from the comic book standpoint, right? Which, as you know, that factors in, the movie's called Joker, that factors into the decision, even if Todd Phillips is not making a movie about the comic book character, he's just using him as a voyeur, right?
Yeah.
The thing that's so interesting to me about that is how he's still able to honor the comic book mythos with that second movie without even realizing it, by showing that, oh, the Joker is not a person. It is this entity that was started and is kind of exactly that is kind of passed on to different people. And that's why, like, and it was so funny how I said going into the second movie out of the first movie, I'm like, the character of Arthur Fleck is not the Joker, but we're gonna meet who the real Joker is. And then when that ended up happening, I'm like, that's amazing. This is exactly it.
I think you have to rewatch the first movie personally, because like the fact that you're just like appreciating so much of what Todd Phillips was going for in the second movie, like even more so than I was.
Yeah, like I said, I'm a big Joker 2 fan. Joker 2 was in my honorable mentions of this year. Like I am very much a Joker 2 fan.
No, but like, tell me if I'm wrong, but like if like the first movie wasn't so effective at like building that arc for Arthur Fleck, like then how could you appreciate his arc in the second movie if
I'll
you
tell you
didn't
exactly
give a
why.
shit about the first one?
I'll tell you
know what
exactly
I
why.
mean?
Because it's not that I didn't give a shit. I'll explain why. I'm actually very glad that you brought that up. It's not that I didn't give a shit. It's that I wanted to give a shit, but I felt like the reasons why they were telling me I should care felt manipulative. I felt that I was being manipulated to feel a certain way.
Focusing too much on the first act of like everyone shitting on him and beating him up,
because that's the whole supposed to be his whole motivation. That by the rules of the movie is supposed to be his motivation, and that's supposed to be the thing that's getting us on his side.
Yeah, and for me, it
doesn't work for me. It doesn't work for me.
It did put me on his side though, when people, because I don't think the movie was too exaggerated enough to like make me like not believe it. You know what I mean? Like I like the guys on the subway aren't too exaggerated.
See, they were for me. They were for me. They ironically enough, it's funny that the Joker is a comic. Those were comic book characters. Those didn't feel like real people to me at all.
On this, I don't know. I'm sorry. I love having this. Is a very good.
No, it's good. Like I said, it's just it's fundamental differences.
We're just never going to agree on that.
Yeah.
But I just don't understand how you could appreciate the second movie as much as you
do. I said it in my review. It's an indictment of the first movie. It's, to me, the second.
So it's what do you mean by that? Like Todd Phillips regrets what he did with the first movie in general? Then what was he going for at all? Then, if he regrets everything he did in the first half of his story, I don't. You know what I mean? Like it's just. I would love to have a conversation with him. Like he's one of the most fascinating directors of all time.
My interpretation of it was that no deed goes unpunished in any way, shape, or form.
Absolutely. No, I agree with you on that. Absolutely.
Yeah.
That was one of the best things about like the second.
And you know what it was for me as well, as to why I appreciated the second movie so much, is the fact that unlike the first one where it felt like Arthur Fleck had no agency of his life, the second one, it finally felt like he was seizing some control of his destiny, you know?
Yeah.
And that really, really struck hard with me. It's like, oh my God, dude.
By the end, he can't like really even live anymore.
Yes, but that's what made it brilliant. Is it's like,
I agree.
He didn't go out on his own terms, right? But at the very least, he accomplished what he wanted to accomplish, which was making everybody see like, you guys have taken what I tried to do away from me. And now you've ultimately robbed me of my agency. And that's exactly what, because that's just
I love
what you
that
do.
sequence though in the second movie where the courthouse blows up and then those guys
That was amazing. That was unbelievable.
Those guys take him, but like
right, but he's trying to get away because he's like, I don't want this anymore. That was awesome. I loved it.
So apprehensive.
Yes.
I don't know. There's parts of this performance that Joaquin gave where I'm like, he's more better in this film than he was in the first film. But then I think back to the Robert De Niro sequence and everything preceding that, like the 20 minutes before that, where I'm like, nah, he was better in the first movie. But like he's just like one of our greatest actors. We've covered him on our Actors Hall of Fame.
He was our debut Actors Hall of Fame one.
He was our debut, obviously. I was just gonna say that. Thank you. But yeah, it's just disheartening for me, honestly, Dominic, that you dislike the first movie as much as you do, even though you appreciate the second film as much as you do, even though like like the second movie wouldn't work as well as it would if a
You're
lot
right.
of the things in the first
You're
film
right.
weren't
And that's
already
why I'm
well
still
established, and the Joaquin Phoenix performance already was already
so you're
brilliant.
100% correct on that, and so that's why I will say that even if I don't like the first movie that much, I appreciate it,
Yeah,
because
like,
without it we wouldn't have the second movie, which again to
like
me
it
has
on a rewatch. I think you would.
we'll see.
I really think you would, especially like what I'm telling you, like specifically, like the portions where he kills his mom and afterwards kills his mom in the hospital and afterwards, it's like a 10, it's arguably a 10 out of 10 a movie. Like it's like there's like nothing wrong with it after that. Like there's really like you can't even bring up like the King of Comedy Taxi Driver shit for that. Like like it's really that good. And like that was the whole movie. Like that was what the movie was building towards to that point. And Todd Phillips absolutely nailed it. And I'm sick of people shitting on that director nomination because he deserved it.
No, he deserved the director nomination for sure. I don't have a
Well,
problem
that's
with
just
that.
confusing to me too because you didn't like the movie and you're saying
Because it's
he
well
deserved
directed.
it.
It's well
Okay.
directed. But
All
from
right.
my problems with it come down to more of the screenplay than the actual
All right.
direction. The
That's
direction
fair.
I
I'll
thought
give you
was very good. Like
Absolutely.
from a strictly a craft standpoint. Like
I thought
it was
the movie
very,
was
very good.
directed like brilliantly for the most part. I agree with you. Like the first half up until he kills his mom, like is very like reliant on like the Taxi Driver, King of Comedy, like you know.
Aside from the Bruce Wayne stuff, the Bruce Wayne insert stuff is my favorite parts of that movie for the
Yeah,
first half.
it's interesting. You have a very interesting point of view
Yeah.
of that movie, and I'm sorry to derail this whole podcast.
No, it's good. I like it.
Like I just really like that because Joker 2 wasn't even nominated for cinematography, which it should have been.
It should have been.
Yeah, like honestly,
Yeah.
like that
Joker
was one of the most that was one of the most like stunningly like
Yes.
well done, well shot films.
Like I said, my surprise was again the fact that everybody hated the movie as much as they did, and I
it was my
loved
number
it as
11.
much as I
Yeah,
did.
it was my
It was
number
it
11.
was pretty high up. It was like I think it was in my top 15 if I'm remembering. I had it very high up.
It was my number 11 of the year. The only reason why it wasn't like like as good as the first is just because like I don't think it worked as well as the first movie did as a whole. But I do appreciate like the ambition and like approach that Todd Phillips gave this movie, and like it wasn't like a typical sequel at all. And that's the thing I just want to one more thing I want to mention about Todd Phillips is like I don't like that people just shit on him regardless of if it's a sequel or not, because if he tries to deviate away from the like typical sequel formula like he did with Joker 2, it's not going to pay off at all, because he didn't do that with The Hangover 2, which obviously you didn't really agree with his approach to that. But like it seems like when he tries to go against the grain or not, it doesn't work either way. So
It's almost like people just don't want him to make sequels, which I'm like,
it feels like no one wants him to make movies
that too.
anymore.
That
Like,
too.
where it's just like, what's your problem with Todd Phillips? He's like one of the only directors that's given any grit or like nuance to any of the comedies that he's ever directed.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
even School for Scoundrels, I'd rather rewatch than most of the shit, like One of Them Days or Bottoms.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I
Well,
mean?
Bottoms is unwatchable if you ask me. So
Well, yeah, you
I honestly I don't even know how I made it through that movie. Like I
yeah,
despise that movie.
yeah, I appreciate elements of Bottoms. One thing I want to mention about I was watching the red carpet tonight, and when Rachel Sennett came on, and she looked hot as fuck. I don't know why she was there, but she's just hit me up, Rachel Sennett.
Yeah,
You know what?
because Saturday Night wasn't nominated for anything.
I know
So
that's what I'm saying, and she didn't present any awards or
right.
any. So
So
I
she
don't
just
know.
went.
I don't know why she was there, but she looked sexy as fuck as usual. But you know what
There's
they
another
put?
one that I'm pretty sure is your age.
Good shit. But
I got you.
you know what they put as her name?
What?
Rachel Zegler. I'm telling you,
That's hilarious.
They put her as Rachel
That's
Zegler,
devastating.
and Rachel Zegler, she did a fucking award tonight.
Right,
Like,
her and Gal Gadot presented
what was
visuals,
it?
right?
Yeah, it was whatever. But whatever it was,
Because they were doing the promotion for Snow White that they weren't saying was a promotion.
I understand that, but like Rachel Zegler, when the people that won the award won, like when they were doing their speech, she was doing the most fake, like,
Oh my God. Her
even my
fake smile.
aunt,
It was
even
so
my
bad that
aunt was
even
like,
Gal Gadot
no.
looked repulsed.
I know, right?
It was
Even
really funny.
Even
It was really
Gal
funny.
Gadot looked embarrassed.
It was so funny.
Even my aunt was like, "Oh my God, she's such a piece of
Well,
shit."
because you know why else Gal
Like, my
Gadot
aunt
probably was like disgusted is because Zegler, if I had to guess, was probably one of the people who was like being like, "Yo, free Palestine" during the whole protest,
Yeah,
and Gal
right,
Gadot,
right.
as we know, is very much on the
Oh,
opposite track.
she was on the IDF,
Israeli,
right?
yeah,
Yeah, she was on
yeah,
the defense force.
yeah,
You're obligated to do that unless you're like impaired in any way.
literally,
Well, like
literally. It's your
literally, like
duty as an Israeli citizen to
you
serve.
have to do
So
it unless
yes,
you're like
like it's
retarded or
non-negotiable.
something.
Yeah,
Like
right.
seriously, what like but I don't hate Gal Gadot. Let's
No,
hot
I
take
love
time.
Gal Gadot. No, that's what I'm saying. I'm
I'm fine
Gal
with
Gadot's
Gal
side
Gadot.
in that instant. In any
I'm
instance of
fine.
Rachel Zegler versus Gal Gadot, I take Gal Gadot's side every single time.
Not that they even have a feud. I just mean like I just in general like people shit on Gal Gadot a lot, especially with the the Imagine video. She was in
Yeah,
that, and where it's like, I mean, she didn't come up with the concept as far as
right.
we
She
know.
was just partaking in
She
it.
was just partaking in it,
Yeah.
and I don't know. I always thought Gal Gadot was good. I
Me
like
too.
Gal Gadot.
Me too. I feel like she got a bad rap and kind of
I
got
mean, to be
swept up
fair,
in the Snyderverse drama.
to be
And
fair, has she been given the roles of like Angelina Jolie
no,
or you know what I mean?
no,
Like someone who has to like really go out like way far outside their comfort zone. Like even Anna de Armas, you could say like she had to play Marilyn Monroe. Like did Gal Gadot ever have to play anything like
no,
that?
nothing
Like
like that.
then why does she have to get shit on for being in a Wonder Woman 2?
I don't
Where
know.
she's perfectly fine in that movie.
Yeah, that movie just sucked.
I mean,
Anyways,
whatever. I'm the one defender of that movie. Whatever.
I still hate that movie. I'm
I
sorry.
mean,
You're not. That's what you're not going to get me on. That's. I can see the argument. I'll hear the argument for Joker.
I'm
Wonder
not trying to convince you on that.
1984. You are never going to get me on
No,
the
I'm
on
not
the
going
side
to
for
try
that
to
one.
convince. I
That
just
piece
thought
of
it was a
shit.
better movie than the first.
I still think the biggest surprise for me is you liking Pedro Pascal in that movie as much
Oh,
as you do.
Pedro
And I'm like,
Pascal
he
was
is
great,
a clown in that. They gave him
That's what he was.
nothing to
He was
do.
supposed to be over the top, and I think he nailed the tone for what they were going for. And
Oh,
I'm not
man.
the only person that thought that.
Bring back Jay Baruchel as Maxwell Lord. That's all that I'm going
I
to
mean,
say.
we never even saw him.
That's what I'm saying. It should have been a thing. A gun should have honored
Never
George
even
Miller's
saw
mission
him.
and brought back Jay Baruchel. How awesome would that have been? Jay Baruchel was Maxwell Lord in a James Gunn directed movie. I digress. Anyways, it's been a fun Oscars night.
Should
We'll be
happen.
It could. It could. It's
No,
been a fun.
it's not. Because
I know it's not,
Sean
but it
Gunn is
could have.
Sean
It could have. Is what I'm saying.
Gunn is happening.
I know it's gonna be Sean Gunn. Anyways, it's been a fun Oscars night. This was a good post ceremony
Sorry, half
chat.
of it was about Joker, but like I like a lot of the wins were predicted. And you know
Yeah,
what?
they were.
We both did very well tonight.
Yes, we did.
18 out of 20.
I should have bet. I should have bet. I'm mad that I didn't.
I don't know. I never gambled on that in terms like outside of people I'm in front of. You
Right.
know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I gamble with my aunt and my whoever's here.
Next year, I'm doing it. I'm putting money down on FanDuel. It's happening. Oh man. Anyways,
Yeah, maybe I
Dustin,
might.
yeah. Anyways, Dustin, we will be back later this month to do our Actors Hall of Fame, which I did decide for anybody who's
It's gonna
watching.
be
It's a
De
little
Niro?
spoiler. It's gonna be De Niro. We're gonna do
All
it
right.
then.
All right.
I've got most of his
I
big
mean,
movies. I only need to watch like 3 or 4
how
more ones.
many
So
how many all-timer performances does he have left in him?
not many.
You know what I mean?
Not many. I'm sorry. He's what, 80, 83, 84 years
Like,
old, something like
I
that.
gotta
Like,
look at my list again,
no,
but
you know,
I don't
82.
even
Sorry, go
know.
ahead.
I don't even know if Killers of the Flower Moon is in my top 10. Like,
I don't
like,
think Killers or
like,
Irishman are making my
like,
top 10.
like you're down. Irishman might. Uh,
He's great in Irishman.
You're downplaying this, but like this month we're covering who is probably the best actor of all time.
It's debatable. Yep.
Like probably
there.
I mean, in terms of like body of work and the amount of work he's done and like the different kind of roles he's tried to portray and like dude, like Robert De Niro is like synonymous with acting.
Yeah.
Like whenever you talk about actors, like people are like, oh, you think you're De Niro? You think you're Pacino? You think you're Hoffman? Like he's one of those names.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like
One of the legends.
like De
One of the
Niro is
legends.
probably like the first like absolutely like Hall of Fame person we're gonna cover in terms of like, you know,
Truly having the body of work.
yeah, the body of work and like
To be
the
worthy of a
amount
Hall of Fame.
like he's been around since the 60s. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I like as many great actors as we've covered, like I don't know if we've
Yeah.
covered anybody that's
I don't think
gone
so.
back to the
'Cause
60s.
I'm trying to think, right? De Niro, Pacino, Nicholson, Hoffman,
No, we haven't done any of
Hackman.
those.
That's what I'm saying. We haven't done any of those guys.
And another point I want to bring up live so you can't edit it out is like I was thinking about people like Philip Seymour Hoffman or Jack Lemmon where I'm like, you know, or Gene Hackman just recently
Gene
just
Hackman was
literally
somebody who I was thinking of. He's somebody who
where
I
it's
was thinking of.
like I know like we usually like our modus operandi is like usually doing actors that are coming out with a movie and then we'll be like, oh, we'll do a top 10 for this person that's overdue, but like when are we going to do the people that like are dead?
It's in the
You
works.
know what I mean?
I'm glad you asked that because
You know what I mean?
I have been thinking about that
Where
and
it's like
it
Jack
is in the
Lemmon is so good, like Walter Matthau, like all those people, like all those
it's
kind
in
of
the
people. Jack Nicholson, like he's not
it's
dead, but
in the works
he's
is all
gotta
that I'm
be.
going to say. Justin, let me put it this way. 2025 is going to be the year of you. We're going to be covering a lot of
Like
your favorite actors on Hall
when
of Fame.
Outcome comes out.
Jonah Hill, right. 2026 may be the year to look forward to. That's
Yeah,
all I'm going to say. Keep an eye on that year. That's all that
because
I'm going to say.
because like there's so many dead actors that are great, and I've been following like up on a lot of older films lately, and like Gene Hackman is so great, and like every Gene Hackman movie I watch is like just a pleasure. So it's like when it like if we did Gene Hackman this year, I wouldn't be opposed to that.
Stay tuned is all that I'm going to say to Actors Hall of Fame and everything else that we have going
One of the
on the TV,
greatest.
Talking TV
Rest in peace,
podcast.
Gene Hackman. I don't know what
Yep.
happened there, but like that.
Yeah, it's oh man. Oh man.
But Gene Hackman really is like one of the greatest to ever do it. Like Royal Tenenbaums was like a super important movie for me, and like he's just so amazingly deadpan and like real in that movie, which is otherwise like a heightened reality, which I would say. But like Wes Anderson movies mean a lot to me, and the fact that like he was like the only actor that didn't like Wes Anderson is just hysterical to me. But Gene Hackman is just his like one of the greatest of all time. Like there's so many great movies with it. French Connection, Enemy of the State. Like he's really one of the greats. Like you know what I mean? Like he's another one of those actors who's like not necessarily did he win like his Oscars for the greatest roles he ever did. Like Night Moves is another movie. You should buy that on Criterion, people. Like Night Moves is fucking sick. Like he was just like an insanely immaculate actor. Mississippi Burn. I can go through his whole filmography. Like he's just so fucking good. Like, and it's just like a devastating loss. I mean, he was 96 or 95 years old, but it was going to be devastating whenever he left. So it's sad that his wife and his dog also had to die, but his other two dogs also lived. So whatever.
Weird. Dustin, my brother for life, my Oscar expert. Where can the good people follow you on the interwebs?
Mr. G Movie Reviews on YouTube. Dustin Mason on Letterboxd. Please link those for the people.
I will. And of course, you guys can follow me with everything going on at Movie Nerd Reviews across all platforms, at Official Talking TV Podcast across all platforms. This episode will be available on Spotify and Apple Podcasts tomorrow morning, along with our Talkin' Lost episode 2 recap. As always, people, we'll be back for much more content throughout the year in the year of 2025. And as always, 12 seasons in a short film and watch more fucking movies.
Honora!
It's been a great night for movies. We'll see you guys next time.
Honora winning is
Honora!
it's just so good.